You're listening to The Law of Lift with Dr. Lawrence Chatters. Real stories, powerful insights, and weekly inspiration to help you rise above life's challenges. Let's lift off with Dr. Lawrence Chatters on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The Law of Lift. I'm Dr. Lawrence Chatters, and we are in business this Saturday. I hope you're doing something amazing on this Saturday. Maybe you're doing some yard work. Maybe you're just hanging around the house with your kids and your family. Maybe you're on the road. Who knows where you are? But what I can tell you is that you are in for an absolute treat today because, ladies and gentlemen, I have an amazing woman in the studio this week with me. Ladies and gentlemen, I am proud to introduce to you Dominique Kelley Johnson. She is here in the studio with me. How are you doing today, Dominique?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm great. And, you know, I have started this show a few weeks back. This is my third show. You're my third guest. And what I can tell you is that I've been learning so much about so many different things. And I've been gaining significant lessons from the people that I get an opportunity to talk to. And I've been just in awe with people's journey so far and hearing all about how people have gotten to where they are, the challenges that they've overcome. And it's been so uplifting for me and inspirational. And your story and your journey is absolutely no different. Ladies and gentlemen, Dominique has an amazing story, and I get the opportunity to talk with her today about how she has gotten to where she is currently and all the wonderful things that she's done over the course of her life. She is absolutely committed to the community and currently has a role that is fully embedded and committed to the community in a wonderfully intentional way. And we'll get to that. But first, we're just starting out with the foundation. And I always start out with a very foundational question with my guest, Dominique. And I know you didn't expect this one because I'm assuming you haven't even heard my show yet, which is totally fine. That's totally fine if you haven't heard it yet. But the first question is, where did your name come from? Tell me about how you got your name.
Oh, good question. I don't get that a lot. So I am named after Dominique Wilkins, actually, who was a NBA player.
Atlanta Hawks, right?
Atlanta Hawks.
Yes.
Dunker. And my mom was watching an NBA game, she said, and fell in love with the name. And that's how my name came about.
Oh my goodness. And boy, would that be a great name.
Isn't that kind of fitting?
It is. Yes,
I know.
It is. Absolutely. So named after Dominique Wilkins. Now, let me tell you what I can remember about Dominique Wilkins is that I think he actually had this like windmill dunk that he would do where,
Yep.
you know, and growing up, I think this was kind of like the 90s, right? That he was really prominent, and the 80s and the 90s, late 80s, early 90s. And I can remember just maybe, I think he even had a flat top or something. I mean, the guy was just like larger than life, literally and figuratively, and was an amazing basketball player. And so how fitting. So that's the beginning. We start with the name Dominique, named after an amazing basketball player, and foreshadowing for my Shakespeareans out there, that would truly become something important in Dominique's life. Basketball would. And so tell us about where were you born, and tell us about maybe that first part of your life when you were just kind of in your formative years and you were, you know, starting to grow up and learn more about the world.
Yeah, for sure. So I grew up in Lincoln. I am the oldest of 5 children.
Okay.
I have 3 sisters and a brother. Lincoln and this community were very influential to me as I was growing up. I grew up at the Malone Community Center, so that's deep in my roots. And I was somebody that was just always a part of things going on in the community. And grew up playing a lot of sports. I played basketball at a really young age because I had a stepbrother who played.
Okay.
And my stepfather coached him, so I was just naturally around the game quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
But I also ran track. And those were kind of the 2 things that really stood out about my childhood, just being at the Malone Community Center and growing up playing sports.
That's awesome. So you just had been around sports from a very young age. You're just kind of, you know, running. And it sounds like, you know, as far as the coaching was concerned, you had your dad, right? And he was doing coaching. And so you'd always see him around athletics.
Yep.
And of course, your stepbrother who is playing as well. And so track. I love track. Okay. I just want you to know I love track. And the reason I love track is because there's something for everybody there.
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, if you're really tall, if you're short, if you're slow, if you're fast. I mean, there's a lot of different things that you can do in track and field. What events did you do in track and field when you were young? Tell me, which events did you do?
So I ran the 200 and the 400, and I also threw the shot put.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So
but I like what you're saying about track. I've never really considered that perspective. There is definitely something for everybody. That's a really cool thing.
Yeah, it is. And when I worked with the track program at Nebraska, that's what I noticed is just there were so many differences between the different event groups, right? So you got your sprinters, and then you've got your hurdlers, and you have your long distance folks, and you have your high jumpers and your pole vaulters, and they all had distinctive personality traits and characteristics that were different. And at the same time, they were a team, right? And so there's something so important about that. And so you are throwing the shot put, and you're doing the 200 and the 400, and the 400 is a grueling race. And, 200 is, I think 200's fun, but still, you're pushing yourself 100% at every single one of those things every time you have to do it. So when did you stop doing those events as far as track was concerned? Did you do those all through high school?
I actually didn't. I stopped running track in 7th grade.
Okay. So middle school was where that kind of came from.
Yeah. And then unfortunately, like a lot of things now, I've kind of just felt like I had to make a decision. Like track kind of went into the summer, basketball overlapped and was played in the summer, and so I kind of decided to focus on basketball. Okay.
So 7th grade, track is no longer part of the equation, and my youngest daughter does track and field, and so one of the things I've noticed about her is that she loves the team approach, and especially in middle school, it was great because you just spend all day at the track with these people that you were around, right? And it was a lot of fun. Talk to me a little bit more about what were some of the things that you were experiencing growing up as a young person in Lincoln. So let's just say it's middle school Dominique. Like, what things are you looking forward to doing on the weekends, and what things are happening socially around you that really shaped you into the person you are today?
Honestly, so it wasn't really a sports experience, but another thing that really takes me back to my childhood, I spent almost every Friday and Saturday night that I wasn't playing basketball at the skating rink.
Wow.
And I have very fond memories with my friends, and I kind of had like my basketball teammates who were like my family in a very imperative part of my life, but then I also kind of had like my school friends.
Okay.
And I hung out with my school friends at the skating rink every Friday and Saturday night.
Now, are we talking about Skate Zone off
We're talking about Skate Zone off 48th
and R? Yes. Oh my goodness. Okay. I can smell it. You can smell it too, right?
That carpet also.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
So that was, honestly, you talk about the things that I consistently did all the time: track, basketball, and at the skating rink with my friends.
Wow. So Friday and Saturday, you're at the skating rink. And, the other really neat thing about the skating rink, and I only realized this as I got a little bit older, because that I'm a DJ, is that that's where you heard all the new music too, right? I mean, if there was a decent DJ there, he or she was going to be dropping some of the newer tunes, and you could just skate around, and we all had our routines that we do with our friends and everything at the skate rink. And it was just this social center where, sometimes people from out of town and everything were there, but it was almost like the club for young people, right?
Exactly. So, it was exactly like that.
Yes. So you enjoyed skating and you enjoyed spending time with your friends. Were you a very social person when you were growing up?
Yes, I was very, very social. I think I'm a little bit more introverted now, but definitely my middle school through collegiate years, I was very extroverted.
That's awesome. So since you did grow up in Lincoln, give us some of the names of these schools that you attended. Like, where'd you go for elementary?
I went to Hartley.
Okay. Hartley Elementary. And then middle school? I
went to Color.
Okay, that's right there off of 48th as well, right?
Right there.
And then for high school?
I went to Northeast.
And I know that's where things get, that's where the story really takes off, you guys, because being a Rocket is no doubt, a major part of Dominique's journey and her story. So talk to us about kind of, you're getting ready to go off to high school. Did you have a choice, or was it basically determined by where you were living in Lincoln, where you were going to go to high school?
I think, all the girls, I grew up playing basketball with girls that were 2 years older than me, and all of those girls were going to Northeast. And the girls basketball coach at Northeast at the time invested in myself and one of my teammates at a very early age, like 5th grade. We started spending quite a bit of time with him. And he was just helping us shape our games, grow as people kind of on and off the court. And so I really wanted to go to Northeast because he had made so many investments and deposits in my life.
Wow.
And so, yeah, Northeast was just always the choice for me because he was there.
That's awesome. And was that close also to where you were living?
Yes.
Okay.
It was at the time. We actually had moved. My grandmother had passed away and we moved into her house.
I see.
Which was very close to Northeast. So it all kind of worked out perfectly.
Okay. So you choose to go to Northeast, and tell me, what was that freshman year of high school like when it came to basketball and kind of making the transition? Because, of course, I'm sure by then, had you already started playing some summer ball and doing some club stuff?
Yep.
Okay. So tell me, what was that freshman year like for you?
Yeah, transparently, Dr. Chatters, my freshman year was kind of a blur. We went through a lot. Our point guard that year had gotten pregnant. She was a junior in high school and had a baby. And then my best friend's brother was involved in a almost double homicide.
Oh my goodness.
So, it was a lot. We had really high expectations for ourselves as a team, but there were some kind of off the court distractions that kind of pulled us away from the goals that we had hoped to reach. But then our high school decided to hire a new coach, which was also very challenging.
Of course.
All these girls chose to go to this school because of this one man who was no longer there.
I see.
And they brought in a new coach. And the next 3 years that I was there, we actually went 70-3.
Oh, my goodness.
We went undefeated my sophomore year
Wow.
season of high school. We lost only one game my junior year, which was in the state finals the next year.
Right.
And then we lost in the state finals my senior year as well.
My goodness.
So
listen, and this is, for our listeners, it's always interesting, you hear people really talk through these difficult times that they have in their life, and they're expressing these challenging things. And Dominique just shared a number of challenging things that happened that freshman year. And I can tell that those things are still very much with her because, you can hear it in her voice as she talks about some of those challenging things. And the biggest thing to me that was striking about what you were just talking about was then at the end of all of that, you say this person that you decided to go to this high school to follow because they had already poured into you and, there were the connections, that person leaves. Yeah. And then a new person comes in. And if you're in athletics, you recognize how disruptive a coaching change is. I mean, it's one of the most disruptive things that can happen to an athlete. And on the other side of it, though, you guys, I did not expect Dominique to say we went 70-3.
Yeah.
I didn't expect that. I'm thinking, okay, it's going to take a while to bounce back, what's going to happen? How's the story continue? And one thing I want to let you all know is that sometimes through all of that challenge and those major issues, as you're going through that major turbulence, there's very, very smooth air on the other side.
Absolutely.
And you have to go through that turbulence to get to the smooth air, right?
Absolutely.
And so talk to us a little bit about, first of all, I mean, again, very turbulent year. During that time frame and kind of transitioning into the new coach, did you ever think about the possibility of not playing basketball?
No. I don't think that
you were
was
committed.
An option for me.
Okay.
I grew up in a single parent household, but one thing that my mom always instilled in us was once you start something, you have to finish it. Mm-hmm. So that was always my mindset. I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about my high school coach who I finished the last 3 seasons with. He was an older gentleman who actually went to Northeast High School, graduated from there, came back actually because his wife had Lou Gehrig's disease.
Oh, I see.
And so he moved back to Lincoln because she got into a nursing home here, and she lived with Lou Gehrig's disease for 30 plus years.
Oh my goodness.
And he is the most committed, dedicated man I've ever met in my life.
Wow.
He loved on our team and through all of our difficult situations that we were going through. And honestly, like you said, after the turbulence, there was so much smooth air, and it was one of the best things that ever happened to us. Wow. As young people. So.
Wow. And it's okay to shout out that coach. What's that coach's name?
His name's Rich Olson.
Rich Olson. Okay. So for all the Northeast Rockets out there, what did Mr. Olson teach at
He taught math.
He taught math. Okay. So everybody that was taking math would have had probably Mr. Olson at some point, right? During their journey. And to hear that about him and, him taking care of his wife, and the difficulty of caretaking.
Yeah.
As I think some of us, as we get a little older and have to start doing that work with our parents, we recognize it's not easy, right? It's not easy to have to be consistently thinking about someone else who at some point was consistently thinking about you in our parents' regard, right?
Yep.
But so you're getting through this high school thing, and you're just absolutely, by the way, I mean, Dominique is probably, and I haven't looked at the statistics, but I can kind of make some inferences here. She's likely one of the most dominant high school basketball players to ever have played in Nebraska, in the state. And I like I said, I haven't looked into that. I'm just going to make that assumption. And I'll have to look it up here. And if you're listening and you're a Googler, I want you to get on there and look up her name and just see how proficient she was as a player in high school and how she was dominant. And when I say that, I'm just, like I said, I'm just making some assumptions here, because if I've been around her and I recognize how much of a competitor she is. And so, but anyways, I'm just putting that out there, and I'll do the research after myself too. But when did you know, Dominique, that basketball was going to be an opportunity for you at the next level? When did you know? When did you kind of start realizing, hey, something here is going really well, and I'm just excelling comparative to my peers in these games and everything else?
I think probably my sophomore year of high school. My freshman year, we beat a lot of teams that we probably had no business beating through all the obstacles and challenges we were facing. But probably my sophomore year of high school is when things kind of took a corner for me. I got an offer from the University of Iowa as a freshman.
Okay.
And realized kind of probably that summer in between my freshman and sophomore year that I had a chance to play at the next level.
Wow. So now the coach from Iowa just recently retired, right?
Yep.
Was it Lisa Bluter? Is that
Yep.
who it was? So you would have gotten an offer from her back then. So to everyone listening, the same person who would have essentially discovered one of the more famous in this day and age basketball players, Caitlin Clark, right?
Yep.
She was on to Dominique her sophomore year of high school. Just so you all, I mean, I just want you to be connecting the dots out there. And this is where, again, you get this offer, and what did that mean to you and your family in that moment? And tell me, were there any other family members at the time who had, gone to college on an athletic scholarship, or just maybe give us a little more pedigree from a perspective of education within your family? Were there other folks who had gone to college and gotten degrees and everything else? Were you first, tell me about that.
Yeah, no. So I was the first person in my family to earn a college degree. The offer meant a lot to my family, my mom and myself, especially because it showed that I was going to have an opportunity to change my life trajectory.
Yes.
And I knew that education was kind of always the key to that. My mom, even though she didn't go to college, she always talked to us about college.
Yes.
So we always knew that it was an expectation for us. We never thought of it as something like we might not be able to obtain, but we knew that was the expectation for us. And so that first offer kind of opened that window of possibility for me and showed me a realm of what I could do and what could be achieved. So it meant a lot.
Wow. And, when you think about the fact that if you're going to play at that next level, and that the financial side of things, which, by the way, regardless of if you get a scholarship or not, people have to recognize that athletes that come from, challenging backgrounds still have issues, right? When they get on to college. And back then, you guys, this is not that NIL era where people are getting additional funds and everything. This is, okay, so you're here and you get an education and a document as you leave here, and a wonderful experience. And that's what you're getting, right? So this is just a different era. And so for you to have that offer and, and a great institution, it was likely a big moment for you. And so then talk to us about how those additional offers started to come in and how things started to get competitive for you and your talent.
Yeah. Once you kind of get one, I feel like somebody gives you the stamp of approval, then they kind of start rolling in. And Nebraska was shortly thereafter. Connie, my coach at Nebraska, tells everybody all the time that she never recruited a player harder than she recruited me.
Wow.
And I made her work really hard for it. They followed me around for 4 years. she attended almost every single game that I played in throughout my high school career. So I'm super grateful for that as well, and the commitment that she made to my life. But I actually really wanted to go to the University of Colorado.
Oh my goodness.
As you kind of mentioned, there were a lot of challenges that I faced and endured. I had a father who was in prison at the time, and I really just wanted to get away and kind of write my own story and not have to live in Lincoln and be worried about all my siblings and all those things. But when it really boiled down to things for me, the opportunities that Nebraska afforded me were just next to none in the country, and so it made sense for me to stay home.
Excellent. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are just absolutely blessed to have Dominique Kelley Johnson on our show today, and we are going to be right back after this with more from her. And so keep on listening. You're on 93.7 The Ticket, The Law of Lift with Dr. Lawrence Chatters and Dominique Kelley Johnson.
At Valentino's, we're on a mission for tradition. On every slice, for every bite. Golden baked crust, cooked to perfection every time. Savory sweet sauce that's made from our own secret recipe. Loaded with the perfect amount of fresh toppings and melty mozzarella cheese. It's the tradition that Nebraskans have come to love. From game day to every day. Valentino's. Taste the tradition.
Give your furnace a break with the help of Heartland of Nebraska Windows. Heartland of Nebraska Windows offers a free estimate, full window replacements, all vinyl triple pane windows, and a lifetime warranty of everything, while still keeping their prices affordable. Sounds too good to be true, right? Heartland of Nebraska Windows is locally and family owned with their own team of installers. Give the window experts at Heartland of Nebraska Windows a call today at 402-430-3852 or visit them online at heartlandofnebraskawindows.com. Elevate your home or business with the help of Heartland of Nebraska Windows today.
Now back to the Law of Lift with Dr. Lawrence Chatters on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're back on the Law of Lift with Dr. Lawrence Chatters, 93.7 The Ticket. And again, we are just so honored to have Dominique Kelley Johnson here in the studio. And before the break, she was talking to us about getting recruited to Nebraska and Connie Yori, just the persistence and the overdrive it took for her to convince Dominique eventually that she was going to stay here in Nebraska. And, I understand what you're saying about getting away from where you grow up and where you start, and a new start, and this possibility that where you go, you can be someone different and you can change things. You can kind of go there and you can just, start over, and you don't have to worry about someone always calling you or getting pulled back into the family drama, which, foreshadowing here again, guys, as we move later on down this journey with Dominique, she's going to talk to you about what she saw as a coach. And I think that's going to be another opportunity for us to hear about how you don't only coach a child or a student athlete, you coach essentially, and you get a chance to interact with their family in many ways, especially when sometimes there's additional challenges that are happening in the household and in the community. And so, but she at that time was trying to redefine and move on from Lincoln, but she ends up staying right here in the state capitol and committing to the Huskers. When did you commit to the Huskers?
I committed right before my senior year started. So I drug it out all the way to the wire.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Yep. Wow. What was that like? Take me back to, and I'm not sure it was like it is now, you all, where there's a YouTube video and there's 3 hats sitting in front of you and you're going to make a decision and, where's she going to go? But did you have any of that flair when you made your decision? And was it kind of a question, or going in, did you know?
No, I really, really, really wanted to go to the University of Colorado. I fell in love with the coaching staff. But my high school coach just really pointed out all the variables and just kept showing me how Nebraska should be the front runner for so many reasons, not just for like playing time and what I'd be afforded on the court, but just like the commitment that Nebraska was making to student athletes off the court as well. And so, like I said, I was going to have the opportunity to get on the floor right away at Nebraska. People kind of spun it into a positive and showed me how staying home could be really impactful for my family and for myself even. And just the success in academics and success in life that student athletes had here was, like I said, second to none in the country. So
Excellent.
it just made a lot of sense for me to stay here. But no, it was just a very intimate moment between Coach Uri's staff and myself. I just walked in there and I had a little black bag. I'll never forget it. And I set it on the table, and in it was a T-shirt. And I put my last name and number on the back of the T-shirt, and it was a Husker shirt. And so it was a really great day. I'll never forget it.
That's amazing. Thank you for taking us back to that moment, and really talking about the importance of how at the time someone who meant a lot to you, who had been demonstrating to you in your coach that they cared about you, helped you see past some of the things that sometimes we experience when we're young, which is we don't think all the way through things sometimes, right? Yep. We don't necessarily think long term. We're kind of more focused on that short term. And I think your coach really knew, for a number of different reasons, that the support here was second to none, as you mentioned, that you were going to get so many different things that you needed. And despite the fact that you would still be here in Lincoln and around some of the things that you wanted to escape, essentially, that this was still the best place for you.
Yep.
And so, but I couldn't imagine what that moment must have been like for Coach Uri and staff to open that bag up and pull that shirt out and see your name on the back of that shirt. And did it have the number on it that you would eventually wear at Nebraska?
Yep, it did.
Which is
24.
24. And, before the break, I was just kind of making some very, presumptive statements about Dominique being one of the best scoring, basketball players in state history. And our producer was very kind to do some research and presented that during her, I believe it was junior year. Was it the junior year that you nearly beat the state record, or was that your senior year?
That was my senior year.
That was your senior year. So her senior year was 15 points short of breaking the Class A points record. And so, I'd say that my assumptions were correct, but that's just the vibes that I get from Dominique, because she's just such a calmly strong person. And, I figured that there was probably something out there like that. But so you choose Nebraska, and talk to me about, because we never really hear about this part. And I'm about to ask you a kind of a challenging question here, but what was it like to let go of the dream of leaving Lincoln and going out of state? What was that like for you? Because you committed here. And again, sometimes we have some buyer's remorse, right? When we finally make a decision. What was that like for you to let go of that?
Honestly, I never looked back.
Okay. All right.
It was a really smooth transition for me.
Excellent.
I committed and kind of never looked back. I never for a moment, even throughout all the obstacles, and I had lots of hard times during the 4 years I played for the Huskers, both on and off the court, but I never wished that I was anyplace else except for Nebraska.
Wow.
And my coaching staff helped me work through those really challenging times. So
excellent.
I'm super grateful.
You had good support, and so there wasn't any questioning of whether or not you were in the right place. You realized that this was the best place for you. And so you get into college, and, honestly, I know for student athletes, that freshman year, that transitional year, once again, right, can be a challenging year. And as we think back in Dominique's story, remember that freshman year of high school was very difficult. There were a lot of things that were happening around her that really shaped her in that year and kind of started to build up that resilience and create for her, that follow through opportunity that she needed, that she had to question, okay, is this still something I want to do? She said she never questioned it. She continued to want to play basketball despite that coaching change freshman year of high school. Freshman year of college, tell us about it. What was it like?
Yeah, transparently, I excelled on the court. I played a lot. I started every game as a freshman. I excelled in the weight room, so that kind of gave me an edge. I was a lot stronger and bigger than my teammates who were the same age as me. So that gave me an opportunity to get on the court right away. And defense was a huge part of the role that I embodied that year.
I see.
But transparently, I struggled a little bit academically and just balancing all the things that being a student athlete at the Division I level kind of entail.
Yes.
I had a hard time prioritizing my academics sometimes. And so that was something that I had to work through and learn how to navigate.
So, for other folks that you make that transition that freshman year as a student athlete on the court, everything is going well. You're getting a lot of accolades, different things like that, I'm sure, at the time. And tell me, what year was your freshman year? What would it have been?
2007.
2007. Okay, so we're still in the Big 12 at that time.
In the Big 12.
And so, again, lots of excelling on the court and doing really well there. But then in the classroom, there's some challenges. And I know Dennis LeBlanc and his crew over there, right?
I know Dennis too.
Yeah, no, I'm saying, I know you know Dennis. I'm just saying, I know Dennis and his squad were trying to.
I got to know Dennis a little too well my freshman year.
And I'm sure there were some conversations, he'd sit down and he'd just say, I know that the support that they have at Nebraska is amazing. And so I know there were study halls and all those things, right, to try to kind of get things moving in that direction. Talk to me about, how did you kind of get through that adversity from that academic perspective that freshman year? How'd you get through that to a point where you did start to prioritize your academics? Yeah. What did it take?
Well, I think the first thing is you just have to admit that you need help.
Yes.
And that was something that I had to grow into, and I had to be able to acknowledge that, number one, like I said, and then two, accept the help that was being offered to me and not be prideful.
I see.
That was probably the biggest thing. Once I got kind of over that hurdle and stopped feeling frowning upon myself for needing these additional resources.
Yes.
Things kind of took off for me, and I kind of never looked back, but it was quite a period of transition for me for a while.
I really appreciate you bringing up those 2 points. So first of all, you have to admit that there's an issue to yourself and in many different respects to other people, so that those people who are supporting you, who are looking in and maybe, again, and we deal with this with our children sometimes, looking in and thinking that you have it figured out. Yeah. Sometimes you have to say to them, I actually don't have it figured out. I'm really struggling over here, right? Yep. And I need support. And then once the support comes, you have to open yourself up to it and you have to accept it, because, that's a really important thing. And I think, honestly, that even applies to us now later in life, right? Where we are struggling as executives or wherever you're at in your organization. First of all, you have to admit that there's some shortcomings that you might have, or that there's some areas that you need to potentially improve. And then you have to accept the help, right? And so some things change, some things stay the same. So you accept the help. And again, like other things I've recognized over the course of your life, you don't look back. You just confidently go into that direction. And so once the academic piece kind of falls in place, and it never falls in place because it's a lot of hard work and time and effort and lots of hours, and this is you on the road. And back then, so Big 12 days, you all, so the map wasn't as big as far as where you all had to go, right? So you're not necessarily having to get on a charter plane very often, but you're probably on a charter bus, right? You guys are going to Ames, you're going to Lawrence, you're going to Manhattan, right? Yeah. You're going down to Colorado too, right? And so tell us a little bit about what that was like for you, just the shift of moving from, clearly high school was high school and you're extremely dominant, but now you're playing in Division I, Big 12. What was it like for you, just that shift of the game and the speed of the game change, and then having to travel and do all the rest of the stuff and lifting and class and everything else? What was that?
Yeah, like? Honestly, I think I'd be remiss if I didn't kind of talk about the pressure that I felt of being a local kid and kind of what you're talking about, just being pulled in so many different areas and trying to manage the basketball piece, the academic piece, making sure that I'm still spending time with my family and doing all the things that the community wanted me to do as well. Yes. And so it took a lot of practice to learn how to manage all of that as well. And me needing to lean on resources and check in with my sports psychologist and just all the things that kind of helped mold me into the person that I am today. But I had to learn how to say no. I see. And that was a skill that I did not practice. Sometimes still to this day, I don't practice that skill very well. But just to manage my time and make sure that I was making sure that I was being taken care of as well. I see. And so that's a really important point that you bring up here, that there was pressure on you locally. And that pressure,
was multifaceted, but clearly being a Nebraska young woman playing basketball here, there was a significant amount of pride placed in that from a lot of people across the state. And clearly, you're representing Lincoln Northeast and you're representing your community. Another dimension, you're representing young Black women at that time in this area, right? Yeah. And when we think about that, we kind of have to ask ourselves the question, what other young Black women were coming out of Lincoln, Nebraska and playing Division I basketball at the time?
Yeah, there weren't a lot. There was a girl who graduated 2 years after me who went on to play at Purdue. Mm-hmm. But man, Lawrence, I can't think of a ton of girls that came out of here.
That's right. And it's one of the first times that it's really kind of hit me that way, that again, as we think about, representation and how much representation matters, and how if we see someone, perhaps we might see that person and see some of the characteristics that are similar to ours, and we might aspire to do what they do, because maybe at its purest level, they remind us of ourselves. Yep. And in your journey, which is a question I didn't get a chance to ask you, but who were you looking up to that was really that aspirational figure that, you're like, gosh, I can see myself in that person. I see that person's perhaps playing college ball, or, WNBA isn't even around yet, right?
It's around, but not to the extent
it is now, yes. Right? So, you have some of these greats from back then, Cheryl Swoops and some of the greats in WNBA that were, making waves back then, but it was still growing. It was still developing. Who were some of your role models in that regard when it came to that?
Actually, there was a member of the women's volleyball team at Nebraska. Her name was Jen Salimua. I got to meet her on one of my recruiting trips. She was also a first-generation college student, and she and I just hit it off really well and connected.
Yeah.
And she was somebody that I reached out to a lot during my time at Nebraska.
Wow, that's excellent. And so you ended up being in the department at the same time as she was then?
No, actually, okay. We weren't.
Okay, gotcha.
She was about 4 or 5 years older than me, I think. So,
I see. Yep. Okay. So you never got a chance to cross paths, but she was definitely someone who meant a lot to you back then, and someone who continued to support you through the process. Ladies and gentlemen, we're hearing from Dominique Kelley Johnson today. Just absolutely wonderful jewels she's dropping on us today. And so we'll be right back after this break. But we keep hearing some great things today, and I look forward to being back with you here soon. Thanks.
A1 Automotive's second location is now open at 5110 State Hill Drive, just off of Yankee Hill Road. The new location continues to specialize in all makes and models and provides personalized service as they have for 15 years. With the school year here, A1 Automotive reminds you that college students get 10% off any service, and they offer free tire repair with a valid college ID. Schedule your appointment today at a1autolincoln.com and visit their new location in South Lincoln at 5110 State Hill Drive or downtown at 11th and L.
Have you been injured in an accident and don't know where to turn? You need an attorney you can trust to handle your case with professionalism and compassion. The attorneys at Liberty Law Group understand that a call to an attorney is a call for help. If you've been injured, we want to help you. Liberty Law's experienced attorneys are committed to the pursuit of justice for those injured. Call Liberty Law and find out how we can help you get the compensation you deserve. Call 877-42-LIBERTY. Call the trial attorneys you can trust. 877-42-LIBERTY.
Now back to the Law of Lift with Dr. Lawrence Chatters on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to the Law of Lift here on 93.7 The Ticket, and I have an amazing guest in the studio with me today, and you're just hearing some absolute jewels from Dominique Kelley Johnson. And, we were just recently kind of talking a little bit about that transition from, that freshman year of college as she continued to move through her journey in college. And we're talking about some people who she saw as her role models. And so, Dominique, walk us through the rest of your collegiate career and some of the highlights of your collegiate career as you remember them, and some things that are still, kind of sticking with you at this point.
Yeah. So we went to the NCAA tournament 3 years that I was at Nebraska. My junior year, we went 32-2. And we were the number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. So that's kind of the really decorated year that my team had. It was crazy to sell out. Back then, it was the Devaney Center. So we were selling out every single game in the Devaney Center. We made it to the Sweet 16 and were upset by Kentucky. But all all in all, I had an amazing experience. I actually got hurt my senior year. So I kind of was super high, and then I've lived the lows of lows as well. And my career actually ended about 13 games into my senior campaign. So, but all of the experiences I've had with basketball have kind of shaped and molded me into the person that I am today. And even with the injury, I don't regret, honestly, a single moment of any of it. It all transformed and came about the way that it was exactly supposed to. So
wow, what great perspective you have on that, and just acknowledging this really, really high point of that 32. You said in
32-2. We won 30 straight games, I think, that year.
And I remember that year, and I was following you all back then, and the energy that you all were playing with and just the dominance that you demonstrated that year were just absolutely amazing. And I can remember, I have 2 daughters, and I would bring them to the games, and it would just be so exciting to see the Devaney full and just be absolutely rocking and enjoying all of this good, positive, solid energy that was going into our women's basketball program here. And, more recently, there's been a lot of energy around women's sports in general, right? Yeah. The last few years, it's really, it's just evolved. And what I would say is that the rest of the country and the rest of people are starting to or recognize what we've recognized. Some of us have recognized for such a long time, right? Yeah. It's like, it is exciting, right? Like, it's exciting when you get to see people compete in general, but, again, I think that it's just interesting how things happen in waves, and then all of a sudden it's a thing, and so, but honestly, you all back then, Nebraska was just so dominant that season that you all were just bringing new people to the sport, people that just wanted to feel what it felt like to win. And, it was amazing. And so during your time, did they make the shift to the Big Ten, or would that have been your senior year? Or?
Yep. So my senior year was the last year we played in the Big 12.
Gotcha. Okay. That's what I thought. And so, and then things change. And, it's just interesting how some of those, the conference realignments and some of those other external things that kind of define who your competitive set is and everything else shift. And then now all of a sudden it's a whole new group of people, to recruit and everything else. And so, talk to us a little bit as you think back now to that senior season and the injury and realizing that your career was, coming to an end. Talk to me a little bit about how you persisted through that and continued moving forward from that point.
Yeah, it was definitely challenging. I was someone who felt like I had put in my time the 3 years prior to that and had been a good teammate and kind of embraced my role every single year that I was on the team. And it was kind of my senior year to shine, and to have that kind of cut short rocked my world a little bit. But
yeah,
I just had so many people around me who put things into perspective for me. And I was engaged already at the time, so I was kind of looking forward to being married and starting my life with my husband.
Okay.
But I had teammates, who'd been injured 2 and 3 years in, who really didn't get to play much at all. And so just watching them kind of maneuver through their injuries and their time at Nebraska, like I said, really kind of put things into perspective for me. And and it kind of forced me to kind of consider what was next for me outside of basketball. And that was more basketball for a while. And I was super grateful for that.
Excellent. And so, we will go ahead and wrap things up for this hour, but we've just absolutely been enjoying this time with Dominique Kelley Johnson, and we'll be right back after this break. You're on 93.7 The Ticket. It's The Law of Lift with Dr. Lawrence Chatters.
Schwieso Construction is now hiring for skilled craftsmen, steel erectors, concrete workers, and general laborers. Schwieso Construction offers great benefits like premium wages, health and dental insurance, paid holidays and vacation, 401k with company match, life insurance, and disability insurance. They pride themselves on a legacy of 40 years built on integrity and trust. Joining their team means becoming part of a family that values hard work, dedication, and mutual respect. Apply today at schwieso.com. That's SCHWISOW.com.
Since 1983, Fast Mike's Roll-Offs has been an trusted and reliable company in Lincoln and the surrounding areas. Fast Mike's handles all sides of construction projects, home renovations, or big cleanouts. With the perfect size dumpster to fit your needs, Fast Mike's Roll-Offs will haul it all. With same-day delivery in Lincoln, affordable rates, and top-notch service, Fast Mike's Roll-Offs make cleanup quick and easy. Call now at 402-450-6828 or visit us online at fastmikesrolloffs.com. Book your dumpster today. Fast Mike's Roll-Offs, cleanup made simple.
You're listening to The Law of Lift with Dr. Lawrence Chatters. Real stories, powerful insights, and weekly inspiration to help you rise above life's challenges. Let's lift off with Dr. Lawrence Chatters on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. You are listening to The Law of Lift with Dr. Lawrence Chatters. We have Dominique Kelley in the studio with us today. And we've heard so many amazing things from her about her journey and about the things that really, shook her up over the course of her time. And, so far, just to recap a bit, we heard a little bit about that freshman year of high school. We heard a little bit about that freshman year of college when, there was an imbalance in priorities. Basketball was going great, but the academics were struggling a bit. She had to humble herself. She had to ask for help and receive that help. And now we just recently heard about that senior year where you're coming off a Sweet 16 appearance, and then all of a sudden there's a significant injury and things come to a pretty abrupt end when it comes to basketball. And at the same time, though, we just heard for the first time about this engagement, right? And then so now you're looking to the future, and there's some other really unique opportunities that are on the horizon. And so transition us, if you can, from your collegiate career into the professional world. What was that like for you to finally get to that point where perhaps basketball is starting to kind of become put on the back burner for a short period of time, but you said that it continued to play a role in your life. So tell us about that.
Yeah, I always knew from a really young age that I wanted to be a coach. And so that was something that I had talked to my collegiate coach a lot about. And actually, I needed to take one last class as a senior. So I actually coached at Doane University while I was wrapping up my undergraduate degree at Nebraska, and was a graduate assistant there for a year, and then came back to Nebraska and was the graduate assistant for 2 years for women's basketball.
Wow.
So I stayed really connected to the game, really connected to Nebraska athletics. And it was just an amazing time. I was able to get my master's degree for free.
Excellent.
Which also continued to help me change my life trajectory.
Yes.
And yeah, that's kind of what I ended up doing the next 3 years after I graduated from Nebraska.
Okay, so give us that graduation year. What was that year?
2012.
2012. So you graduate. Now Nebraska's in the Big Ten. You coach at Doane.
Yep.
And talk to me about, and this is kind of a funny description, but I think people will understand it. So, you go down to Disney World and you have a great time. Have you been down to Disney World with your family?
I haven't yet.
You haven't? Okay, well, you have to, right? It's just one of those things that you do. So you're going to take your kids down there and they're going to have a wonderful time. Now, if you work at Disney, it's a totally different experience.
Yep.
Right? Totally different experience. Like literally after certain hours, the characters take their heads off, right? Yep. And they're different people. They're normal people under there, and they start to tell stories about how that person kept pulling on their leg or whatever, right? I mean, so what is it like to be on the other side of the amusement park as a coach comparative to being a player?
Yeah, well, it was different. There were so many differences. First of all, in how we traveled. I went from, like you said, kind of charter flights to like actually driving a 12-passenger van and transporting girls to games across the state. So that was different. But also, I was very young. I was still very close in age to the players that I was coaching. So I had to kind of learn that dynamic and, like how to be true to a coaching staff and how to just balance kind of those expectations. It took me a little bit of time to figure that out as well. But I had an incredible experience at Doane, and my time at Nebraska was the same way. I wouldn't have traded that time for any other time.
So the years that you're here at Nebraska, which coaching staff are you a GA for?
Still Connie.
Still
York.
Connie.
She's still at Nebraska. Then.
Okay. So you're still coaching with her. And what was that like to come back to this level, Division I again, as a GA? And I just want you to really talk to me about finding your place. And when I say that, I mean, as an athlete, and honestly, what you recognize clearly pretty quickly when you were at Doane is that at Nebraska, as an athlete, you all pretty much had everything that you needed, right?
Yeah.
I mean, literally, somebody's putting your clothes back in the locker on a daily basis, and they've washed them, right?
Yep.
And so this is a different experience. And then you're going down to the training table, someone's, serving up your food, and everywhere you go, it's like you're an actress, right? Like everything's ready for you, right? Like hey, this is the uniform we're wearing today. These are the socks. They're brand new. Here's some shoes. Right? I mean, it's just crazy, right?
Yeah.
So what is it like to come back as a GA and then kind of step into that server role, right? Doing some of those things perhaps within the coaching staff and having to be, see things kind of from the ground up. What was that like for you?
Yeah, my time at Nebraska as a GA was really eye-opening. I had no idea that our coaches kind of exuded and spent that much time doing the different things that go into being a collegiate coach at that level.
Yes.
Everything from scouting to recruiting to helping us get prepared for a game, like just all the preparation and attention to detail that went into every single scout.
Yes.
And every single day was crazy. It really opened my eyes and honestly made me kind of reconsider if that was the career path that I wanted to go down, because they sacrificed so much to put us in situations to be successful.
Yes. And so you're quickly realizing that when it comes to the decisions that you have to make, and you're considering your future, whether that be a family and different things like that, right?
Yeah,
you're starting to quickly realize that it's going to be hard for some of those things to coexist.
Yep.
Right. And so, what perspective did that give you once you saw the other side of it, how much time and effort and preparation went into being a coach? And here you had played at that level and you didn't realize it while you're going through it because you show up for practice and you do your thing. But how did that change perhaps just your feeling about what you had experienced as a player, and how did that also start to shape how you started to see the current players in their experiencing what you did as a player?
Yeah. I think it made me respect the game a little bit more, honestly.
I see.
It made me want to give back to the game.
Yes.
Like I said, it kind of, at first I was a little nervous that maybe coaching at that level wasn't for me, but I actually ended up staying. I went to Drake University, which we'll talk about in a little bit.
Yeah.
But it just really gave me a deep appreciation for the game. And I don't like to really, I think it's tricky to kind of compare different time periods of playing to other time periods, because your time is kind of your time and there's nothing kind of like your time. We had things that previous
generations and players didn't
have, and that's how things should evolve. Like everybody should always get more.
Yes.
As time continues to move along, but more than anything, it just grew my appreciation for the game and I wanted to stay really connected to it in some capacity or another.
That's awesome. And when you talk about that connection to the game, and when you talk about the commitment that you saw from the people around you, those other coaches and everything, one of the things that I recognize from working in athletics was just an appreciation of the grit and determination of the people who are doing the work. And I'm talking everybody in the enterprise. I'm talking, there's this guy that worked at Nebraska behind the scenes setting up chairs and tables. His name's Steve Torsky. I mean, this guy had to go set up the bleachers in Devaney every time you all played, right?
Yep.
And make sure that was ready to go, make sure the lights were on. There's just so many people who are committed substantially to making sure that what they get done gets done so that the whole thing can work.
Yep.
And I think in coaching, what's amazing about that is that it's so indicative of great teams that are championship caliber, that everybody does their role really well.
Yep.
And everybody wants to, essentially overperform in what they do. So if you're preparing that game plan, you need to do the research to the extent that you understand specifically that 75% of the time she's going to go left, right?
Yeah.
But 25%, you got to be ready if she goes right, right? I mean, there's that intricacy and that commitment. And I think that it sounds like you were right where you needed to be, because that type of discipline was something that you had grown up with.
Yeah.
That type of commitment, that type of follow through and determination was something that you had consistently been committed to over the course of your life. And so it just manifested that you being around high performing people and being a high performing person, that's where you should have been. So talk to us about post Nebraska. So you're here as a GA. Tell us about your journey after that and where you get your first official coaching job.
Yeah. So I was lucky to just kind of move up 80 and not be too far from Lincoln at Drake University in Des Moines, Iowa. And I was there for 3 years. I had a really incredible time there, but my life kind of took coaching there was amazing. I loved recruiting there. I loved my coaching staff there. Jenny Baranchek is now the head coach at Oklahoma.
Okay.
And she's done exceptionally well. Everything she touches kind of turns to gold. So she and I are still very close to this day, but I actually ended up getting pregnant and lost a baby on a recruiting trip at 6 months. And that
my goodness
experience kind of rocked my world and kind of was the thing that led Clyde and I to come back to Lincoln, which kind of led me to my time at Lincoln High. And so it was a blessing in disguise. It was a really painful situation that we went through, but it ended up turning into something beautiful and me being able to impact a lot of lives back here in Lincoln. So.
Oh my goodness. Well, first of all, I'm very sorry to hear about that. And, you know, just the fact that you were really pushing yourself and kind of in the midst of your professional world. And then all of a sudden this happens and you decide at that point, was it a pretty immediate decision that
It was pretty immediate.
Okay.
Yeah. We got pregnant again right away. And I just felt like I needed to be in a different space professionally.
Okay.
It's, you know, college athletics is grueling and it's very demanding. And so I just wanted to come back home at that point. And so an opportunity with Pete Ferguson and federal programs at Lincoln Public Schools kind of presented itself. And so I took this role as what's called a navigator, helping kids that had dropped out of school. Re-engage back into high school became available. And I just really hopped into that and threw myself into it completely.
Okay. So year wise, are we right around 2016, 2017 then?
You're so good.
Okay. No, because I know you said your son was 8. And so I'm just kind of doing some backward math here. So around 2016, 2017. And you know, you're back in the school system that you graduated from, essentially. You're not at the same school, but you're back in the school system. And perhaps you're working with students from across the district, right? And so what was it like for Dominique to step back into Lincoln Northeast? At that point in your life where clearly you've gone through a lot of things and you're back though. And now you're on the other side of it. You are the very role model we were talking about earlier, in that you have been the young Black girl from Lincoln, Nebraska, who went on and played D1 and has coached at the D1 level as well, right? And now you're back here and you're inspiring the next generation. What is it like to walk into Lincoln Northeast at that point?
Yeah, you know, it was kind of surreal. I've worked with so many incredible students who had such unique and diverse experiences and stories. And it was just really humbling to be trusted with so much and to build relationships with kids from all across the city, specifically at Northeast as well. But it was just a really eye-opening experience and something that I don't take for granted. I met so many incredible kids that were just trying to get themselves over the edge. And we kind of talk about changing those trajectories, understanding maybe not early on how important education was then, but grasping that now and knowing how necessary it was to kind of move their lives and propel themselves forward.
Yeah, that's amazing. And so you're back, you have, 2 degrees at that point. You're supporting the young people and helping them to try to understand kind of, you're really going to need this education thing. And when you were talking earlier about those challenges of your freshman year in college and some of the academic, nuances and things that were happening at that point, that happens to so many students across the spectrum. And I'm telling you, like, students who are, straight A students get to college and struggle.
Yep.
Meanwhile, Dominique is here playing Division I basketball and doing all these things and being, really dependent on by her family still in her city, and also having to do the academic thing, right?
Yep.
And so, the fact that people struggle that first year, it's almost expected. But when you're really excelling in everything that you do and you're committed to excellence, you find a way through it. And so, how do you use those experiences when you're back here early on as a navigator? How often do you open up and share any of those challenges with people? Because, sometimes people edify the people when they come back to the community, like, oh, you've gone out and you've gained all this wisdom and everything else. Now you're a sage, like, how do I learn from you? So how did you impart that wisdom to the next generation?
Honestly, I just try to be a good listener and to kind of meet them where they were. I think there were things about my story that really resonated with a lot of the kids that I worked with. I lived and grew up in similar backgrounds as they did. And so that kind of instantly gave us a connection.
Excellent.
But from there, it's just being a good listener and trying to understand what it is that they need and where they feel like they're coming up short.
Mm-hmm.
And trying to kind of help them compensate for those areas.
I see. Excellent. And so how long were you a navigator? And talk to me a little bit about what were some of the persistent issues that you were seeing that were impacting the youth here in Lincoln as you move through that profession?
Yeah. So obviously attendance, but the big component that's probably not talked about enough is mental health.
Yes.
So many kids struggling with their mental and emotional health, and not having families that are always very supportive of that.
I see.
And not understanding how to navigate that was a real challenge of the work that I was doing.
Yeah. And, you talked about mental health, and you were kind enough earlier, to mention, about the importance of the relationship you had with your sports psychologist during your time at Nebraska. And so it sounds like mental health has also been something that you've been able to at least dive into from the perspective that you've been able to seek support when you've needed it and gain something from it.
Yeah.
Right. And so you, as an individual who's been able to really benefit from that, could express to them that although there is a stigma sometimes, especially in our Black community, around getting mental health and, this concept of maybe telling someone else the secrets, you can let them know, hey, this is a really positive thing and it can help you.
Absolutely.
And you, at that point in time, also being an upstanding, person in that community, can talk to their parents too about that. Yeah. Right. And so do you feel like you were able to have a really positive impact as a navigator?
Definitely. It was a new position. So there were things that kind of, we were growing through all the time, but loved my time as a navigator, loved my time working for Pete Ferguson and federal programs.
Yeah.
And that experience shaped me quite a bit.
Outstanding. And so, talk to us a little bit about this transition back into coaching. And while you were a navigator, were you doing any coaching on the side? No. So talk to us about, how do you end up being the head women's basketball coach at Lincoln High?
Yeah. So Mark Larson, the principal at Lincoln High, called me one day and said that they needed a girls basketball coach. And I was like, there's no way I'm going to coach at Lincoln High. They've historically been terrible. It has not gone very well. But one of the things there was I was going to have to teach.
I see.
And so they wouldn't let me stay in federal programs and keep coaching. And so if I was going to go coach, I had to start teaching.
Okay.
And so I had the most unique teaching experience at Lincoln High, very similar to what I was doing as a navigator.
Mm-hmm.
It was called the Foundry at Lincoln High School. And we were essentially doing the same thing, again, helping kids that had dropped out kind of re-engage back into school.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of had their own central hub in this really cool space at Lincoln High where I taught in a classroom with myself and one other full-time teacher.
Okay.
And I said yes to coaching and said yes to the teaching gig. And it was really awesome.
Wow. Okay. And so give us a year of when that happens, that you go into being the full-time head coach of the Lincoln High Lynx women's basketball program.
Yeah, it was rough. There were lots of habits, lots of very decorated basketball players, but lots of kids that had habits that just were not great. Lots of things we had to coach through, and I had to be very consistent and persistent to break those habits. We didn't show up to class on time. We didn't come to practice all the time.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
We didn't have a lot of family involvement and support. And so those were just barriers that we were constantly battling, probably, honestly, my first 2 years at Lincoln High.
Wow. So having to really reshape that program, change the culture, right? And when we talk about high level athletics, people throw around this word culture, but culture is such a pervasive component of an amazing team, but it's also a pervasive component of a team that doesn't excel, right?
Yep.
It's almost like even people who are high performers can come into a space where there's a bad culture and underperform, right? Very much like somebody who's an underperformer can go into a great culture and overperform, right? And so you're here at Lincoln High and you're having to methodically go about changing some of these habits and these expectations and really asking more of these young women who have decided that they were going to sign up to play basketball. So what did that feel like to be a person who had played for great coaches, coached with great coaches, was a great player herself? What was it like to have to really revive this program?
Yeah, it was really challenging. I think the first thing that I had to stop doing was trying to coach them as I saw myself. I think I spent the first year or two doing that, like coaching them the way that I thought I was as an athlete.
Yes.
One of the best things I did was hire my high school coach, Rich Olson, to kind of be a mentor for me. And so he was with my staff for those first 3 years.
Wow. Okay.
And that was super influential to me, but I had to do that first. And then I had to meet them where they were at in order to start breaking down those walls and those barriers and starting to kind of combat some of those challenges that we were going through. And I had to create space for them to trust me also.
I see.
I wanted to be on the same level with them in a sense so that they knew that I respected them and that I was willing to run through a brick wall for them the same way that I was asking them to do for me.
I see. Wow. There's a lot of great jewels there. Ladies and gentlemen, you were listening to coach, mother, outstanding player, just all around good human being, Dominique Kelley Johnson on 93.7 The Ticket. We'll be right back after this.
Are you looking for an exciting new way to put your skills to work? Explore new career options in the fintech industry at Currency, a Sandhills Global company. We offer full-time positions in financial sales, compliance, operations, and other fields. We also offer a 4.5-day work week, an attractive benefits package, and opportunities for advancement. Put your motivation to work and grow with us at Currency. Visit gocurrency.com/careers to learn more.
Breaking here at the news desk. When you stack Allo Internet, DirecTV, and mobile, you can lock in your price for 2 years. Sources are confirming that when you stack Allo Internet, DirecTV, and mobile, your monthly price drops and you're locked in for 2 years. That's fiber fast internet, premium streaming TV, and reliable nationwide mobile coverage. And this just in, you must switch by Labor Day to secure that locked-in pricing for 2 years. Switch, stack, and save at allofiber.com/stack.
Bring new life to metal treasures with Kaiser Blasting and Coatings. From railings and fences to outdoor furniture and unique antiques, their expert team removes years of rust and weathering, then finishes each piece with a lasting powder coat. Trusted by industries across the region, now local homeowners and businesses can experience the same professional care. Visit KaiserBlasting.com or call 402-421-3559 to request your quote. Restore, protect, and make your metal shine like never before with the help of Kaiser Blasting and Coatings.
Now back to the Law of Lift with Dr. Lawrence Chatters on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are back on the Law of Lift. I'm Dr. Lawrence Chatters, and we are just absolutely being schooled today by Coach Johnson here, Coach Kelley Johnson. First of all, like I said, and I just want you all to try to experience what I experience when I get a chance to talk to these amazing guests and just hear their commitment, the commitment that they've essentially put in over the years and all the time and effort that they've spent doing what they do and doing it really, really well at a high level. It's just awesome to spend time with them and hear about essentially the rest of the story, right? All the different challenges and the things that have come up along the journey. And so, you know, we were talking about Dominique's time as a coach at Lincoln High. And, you know, she was just talking about having to change the culture and, you know, really just, I would say, help those young women who she was coaching see their true potential and rise to that potential and live that potential on a daily basis across multiple spectrums, right? So it wasn't just going to be on the basketball court that you were going to do what you needed to do, but you're going to do that in the classroom too. And you're going to do that in the community, and you're going to do that here, and you're going to do that there. And so, you know, she talked about what kind of challenges were there. And so tell us about, when do things kind of turn the corner at Lincoln High when you feel that you've actually gotten your culture in there, you're starting to make some moves, and you're starting to see some return on that investment?
Yeah. My third year there, we had, I think my third or maybe my second year, we had a freshman class of about 8 girls that chose to come to Lincoln High to play basketball for me.
Wow.
And we were really young, but they were committed to the process for the most part. They were dedicated. They wanted to be coached hard. And that's kind of when things started to turn a corner for us, culturally wise.
Okay. So you have 8 freshmen. I'm sure they're very, very good. And you know, you're building this team, and things are rolling. And so talk to us about that season, because that was a pretty magical season for Lincoln High.
So we kind of had, there were kind of 3 special seasons we had. The first is honestly right in conjunction with the pandemic, and I'm coaching a team of all Black females who chooses to kneel during the national anthem and the whole kind of George Floyd movement. So we're walking into small town Nebraskas and getting all the things.
Yes.
That kind of blows up, and we kind of work, and they dedicate their season to, their theme was bigger than basketball, Black Lives Matter.
Wow. Okay.
So we walked through that together.
Yes.
And then the next year, we went to the state semifinals for the first time, and I have no idea how many years, a long time.
Wow.
And it was just really cool for the kids to have that experience.
Yes.
I honestly, I am an extremely competitive person, but it was hard to walk away from that year and not be really proud of what we accomplished.
Yes.
I never like walked away wishing we had like gone to the finals or anything like that. I was just so proud of them for stepping into the moment and embracing everything that it was. And we left feeling really good about that year, but wanting more.
Yes.
And then their senior year, we were 23-2, and we played in the state championship game that year, lost in the finals. So it was kind of a lot of blood, sweat, and tears kind of over the course of 5 years that went into those seasons. But we sent like 6 kids on to college.
Oh my goodness.
They are juniors this
year.
fall.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
All of them doing very, very well and sticking it out. And they've had lots of adversity, but they've been able to call me, and we've been able to still work through it and navigate it.
Wow.
And it's just been a really cool full circle moment.
That's so I just want you all to take in the weight of what Dominique just said. So we were talking earlier, we were talking about her journey from Lincoln Northeast to the university. And at the time that she was on her journey, there weren't really a substantial amount of, from a representation perspective, other young women who looked just like her that she could aspire to be like around here, that were playing basketball and going on to play college ball at the D1 level. And she just mentioned that she went through that journey. Of course, she talked about the twists and turns, but then she comes back here and she coaches in her hometown. And not only does she endure one of the more challenging seasons on record when it comes to, you know, COVID and some of the racial unrest of our country and some of these challenges, but she just said that she sent multiple young women on to college to play basketball. That is so incredibly powerful to talk about that full circle moment. It just must have felt so good for you to be at the tables when, as we talked about, you know, you walked in with a bag and gave coach that number 24 jersey with your name on it. But it must feel amazing to stand behind that table with these youngsters now when they put it all out and they're choosing which school they're going to go to. And I'm sure a lot of these young women had multiple offers and they made a decision.
Yep.
How does it feel to be a part of that journey now in these young women's lives? And of course, they're, you know, going through their process right now. They'll be juniors this year, but how does it feel to be the one who's helped propel them significantly to get to those heights that you once dreamt about and got to? How does that feel to be the person that's behind that?
Honestly, I've done a lot of rewarding things and had a lot of amazing experiences, but those moments are hard to top.
Yeah.
Seeing how proud their families were and the tears and just having the offers kind of start to roll in for those kids and have them explore different things is second to none. It's
Wow.
kind of hard to put into words even still to this moment how proud I am of all the young women that I was able to coach.
That's amazing. And you talked earlier about Coach Olson talking to you about the importance of which place to go as far as like, these are some things that you might not be thinking about and everything. And you got to do that with these young women.
Yep.
You got to really say, hey, I know that looks flashy, but this over here is a lot more consistent.
Yep.
Right. And so that must've been amazing too. And, honestly, just to be on that coaching side of things. And, you and I had talked a while back, and I've been so honored to have the opportunity here and there to connect with Dominique over the years and just really, support her on her professional journey in so many different ways, and just, providing some perspective sometimes, right? If nothing else. And some of the things that you were really talking to me about was just some of the challenges of coaching sometimes when there's additional things that are, really in the works with a student athlete, because you're really coaching more than just them, right? You have to really go above and beyond. So talk to me a little bit about how did you get through some of those more challenging aspects of things that presented themselves with your student athletes, being from certain communities that have some challenges that are involved in those communities and everything else. How were you able to work through some of those things?
Well, I think one thing that I did that I had to learn how to do, and I wasn't always great at this, but was understanding that everybody's ceiling looks a little bit different. So, for Bree, that was going to school to study biochemistry, and she wanted to play at the highest level. For another one of my kids, her graduating high school, even though she had all the potential in the world, that was the ceiling for her, and getting a job after that. And so, working with their families to kind of like just set those expectations and boundaries for what it was that we wanted to individually set out for them, but also understanding that collectively there was still a goal that we were trying to reach. And and that was win basketball games and win a state championship. But I think I had to learn how to coach each one of them differently.
I see.
And coach their families differently.
Wow.
And that took me a little bit of time to figure out how to navigate.
I see. And so, you just said so much there as far as just helping people get to the edge of what their potential is, right? And don't expect something you expect of this athlete over here, of this athlete over there, because they might just have been, doing a lot to get to practice that day.
Exactly.
And you had no idea what was going on at home and everything else. And so the way that these young people that we get the chance to work closely with and be a part of their lives show up is indicative of the environments they come from in so many different ways. And if you don't understand those environments and understand how their potential fits into those environments and is impacted by those environments, then it's hard to truly appreciate some of the challenges that they're going through, right? And
Absolutely.
So it sounds like you figured out how to at least go down that path and understand those things and ask the right questions, right?
Yep.
And really be on that journey with these young women. And, as they're going through their development and just becoming who they are, there's challenges in that too, right? And as we talk about, we kind of touched on a little bit this concept of racial identity and some of the things that happen to your teams during your time coaching and everything else. I mean, we can't overlook those things, right?
Yep.
Those are pretty significant junctures in the journey that, had an impact on you and your team and their families. And I remember reading some of the articles during those times and just feeling so, upset about, gosh, why are young people having to endure this?
Yeah.
Right. And all for a sport, and some of the things that were said and different things like that. And it's just, so anyways, I mean, you kind of have run the gamut at this point about, hey, you coached, you played, you experienced all these different things. Talk to us about kind of when that coaching career comes to an end and how you transition into your next journey.
Yeah, well, I had lots of conversations with people that I trust and respect in this community, and you were one of those people. And all those seniors were getting ready to graduate, and they actually had graduated. And I just felt like I was ready to kind of shift and put my own family and children first, because my family sacrificed a lot. The way that I coached those teams at Lincoln High took a lot out of me, and I wanted to do it a certain way, and I wanted to give those young women the world.
Yes.
And so I kind of went above and beyond and did lots of extra things that I didn't necessarily need to do, but felt like they were deserving of that. And so I was kind of ready to shift and kind of prioritize my own family. I had 2 young kids. And an opportunity presented itself to kind of, I took a coffee date essentially to learn more about the Boys and Girls Club, and it ended up turning into a professional opportunity. And that's where I'm right now as the executive director, and I've been here for about 2 years now.
Wow. Executive director, the Boys and Girls Club. And, gosh, I just want you to know, talk about full circle moments. Now, essentially, you are the leader of an organization that aims to lift up young people in the community and really provide full wraparound services in so many different ways. And talk to us about just what that means to you to be able to be the person at the helm that really has to kind of see all the things that are out there in the environment. There's a lot right now, a lot of challenges and things like that.
Yeah.
How are you perhaps managing some of the more recent challenges around, things getting tougher for people who make less money? Some of the federal programming dollars kind of reducing, right? Like philanthropic dollars potentially reducing in some ways. How are you managing all of that as a leader right now?
I think I have really good leaders that I surround myself around. I have amazing mentors and a very supportive family. And so I just tap into those connections a lot. I rely on a lot of people to kind of help me keep myself refueled and energized, and providing my team with good perspective,
awesome,
and insight, and letting them know that everything's going to be okay. There are definitely challenging times that we're going through, like you said, but we just try to keep that mission at the forefront.
Yes.
And keep trying to serve as many kids in this community as we're able to.
So what are some of the similarities you see in currently being executive director and being a coach?
Oh, good question. I think it's all about leading and coaching and managing people, honestly. So much of it is that, and I there are a lot of parallels. I'm not managing kids anymore. I'm managing adults.
Yes.
So that's a little bit more challenging sometimes, honestly. But, I always tell people the work that I was doing at Lincoln High, both on and off the court in the classroom, is very similar to what I'm doing now. The mission is essentially the same. The work just looks a little bit different.
Definitely.
Definitely.
So, and you were talking earlier about recognizing different people's ceilings, right?
Yep.
And I think that also applies to being an executive director, someone in a leadership role, is recognizing that different people around you have different challenges. And some of them, sometimes somebody wants to be a manager, other times somebody doesn't want to be a manager, right? And sometimes you have to also, as you were talking about earlier, really consider contextually some of the different identity aspects of people, the different challenges that those people have grown up with, the way that they come to the work and how they see the work and everything else, what's going on in their respective families and their lives, right? Like all these things. It's like you said, it manifests differently, but it's very similar work. And so have you been enjoying your time as an executive director? And what would you say are some of the biggest lessons that you've learned thus far in this 2-year journey?
Oh, great question. I definitely have enjoyed my time. Some of the more challenging things that I've endured and faced are kind of current funding priorities and initiatives that are going on. And honestly, I had to rebuild the team at the Boys and Girls Club when I first got there.
I see.
And that was really challenging. It's not easy to kind of let people go and kind of uproot lives and take jobs away from people. That was really challenging for me, and something that I had to grow through and navigate as well. But love the work that I'm doing. Love being able to, I spend time with the kids, not in the same capacity that I used to.
Yes.
But love every opportunity that I get to get into the club and spend time with the kids, and just just get out and do things like this and share our mission.
Yeah.
And talk about the really important work that we're doing.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So, ladies and gentlemen, you're hearing from Dominique Kelley Johnson, the executive director of the Boys and Girls Club of Lincoln. And we'll be right back after the break. You're listening to The Law of Lift with Dr. Lawrence Chatters, 93.7 The Ticket.
Bring new life to metal treasures with Kaiser Blasting and Coatings. From railings and fences to outdoor furniture and unique antiques, their expert team removes years of rust and weathering, then finishes each piece with a lasting powder coat. Trusted by industries across the region, now local homeowners and businesses can experience the same professional care. Visit KaiserBlasting.com or call 402-421-3559 to request your quote. Restore, protect, and make your metal shine like never before with the help of Kaiser Blasting and Coatings.
Now back to the Law of Lift with Dr. Lawrence Chatters on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's right. You are listening to The Law of Lift with Dr. Lawrence Chatters, and I have the executive director of the Boys and Girls Club of Lincoln in here with me today. Also, former standout coach, also former standout player, former standout student. Oh, my goodness. I mean, just lots of great things, lots of great information we've heard today from Dominique Kelley Johnson, who I have in the studio with me today. And so tell us a little bit more about the Boys and Girls Club of Lincoln. Like, how many young people do you all serve, and what is your mission? You know, if you were to give me some information about that.
Yeah, so the Boys and Girls Club has been around in Lincoln since about 2007. We serve about 200 kids every day in our after-school programming space, and our mission is to empower the youth in the Lincoln community, especially those who need us most, to reach their full potential.
Outstanding. Outstanding. So over 200 young people. And, you know, I know that earlier we were talking about some of the challenges with federal funding and after school programs and all these things, right? Like, and I don't know if people fully understand just how many young people those programs serve and how important not only those programs, but also funding for SNAP, funding for, you know, free food, free lunch programs at schools and everything else, how much that impacts Lincoln. And so talk to me about what are some of the bigger challenges right now that you all are trying to figure out how you overcome with the youth, as far as what are some of the bigger challenges that are facing our youth in this day and age?
Yeah. Well, more than anything, the number one thing we always talk about is we want to be a safe place for kids to be. So it's really imperative that these places stay open.
Yes.
Our after school programming space stays open the latest in Lincoln of 7 p.m.
I see.
And I really want to drive home and want people to know that for just $35 a year.
Okay.
That allows a kid to participate in our programming for an entire school year. So
wow.
$35 goes a really, really, really long way. We serve dinner.
Mm-hmm.
We provide quality programming. We kind of get the misconception sometimes that we're similar to a daycare, but we are providing these young people with quality programming.
Excellent.
In 3 kind of priority areas: academic success, good character and citizenship, and healthy lifestyles.
Outstanding. And those are incredibly important building blocks of our young people, and making sure that, you know, academically they're making the progress that they need to. And, you know, you and I, we've talked a lot about academics today and the importance of just that commitment, right? And the ability to learn, the ability to get support that you need when you need it, and accepting that, you know, healthy lifestyles. I mean, that, you know, being healthy, you all, as we all know, I think as we get to a certain age and start to deal with things that start with diabetes and high blood pressure and all these things, right?
Yep.
I mean, for these young people to have the right nutritious foods and understand what they should be eating and how they should be behaving from that perspective when it comes to their nutrition, but then also other decisions, right?
Yep.
And, you know, honestly, I think those 3 pillars are just incredibly important. And it's good to hear that you all are doing that work in the community. And so I want you to tell me, as you think about all the things to this point that you've done, and I mean, the, gosh, as far as ceilings are concerned, I haven't seen yours yet, so I'm still trying to figure out, you know, where that is. And you've just been, you know, absolutely exceptional at so many different things, and you're continuing to strive. So when you think about the work that you do on a daily basis, and you think back to, you know, young Dominique walking into that Malone Center when you were a kid and just, you know, being there, I mean, how do you, as an executive director, show up to that young person who sees you as so far away, but yet so close because perhaps you look like that young person? How do you show up as an executive director to make that happen?
I think you meet them where they're at, and you have to be relatable.
Yes.
You have to, and like I told you earlier, I think something that I've learned because I've had so many incredible mentors do for me is just listen.
I see.
I think those things are really critical and important, and just meet them at their level. Don't try to come in and be a know-it-all or kind of present yourself in a uppity kind of way. Just meet kids where they're at, because they'll have more respect and appreciation and admiration for you.
That's amazing. That is outstanding advice from Dominique Johnson Kelley here. And, it's just so incredible to have you on the show. And, I've just learned so much today, not only about your journey, but also about the things that are meaningful to you, and the things that continue to be incredibly important for our future as a city and as a state, and dealing with the young people here. It's just so incredibly important, I think, as you mentioned, to meet these young people where they are. And in this day and age, I think we, as older people, we have to consistently try to keep up with some of these trends and understand what's happening in their world, because those are important things to them. And so, I try to keep up with stuff. It's hard because things are ever changing, but, you're also a mom now, and you've been a mom for the last 8 years. What are some of the things that you just see as hopes for your children in the future?
Wow, man, I really just want them to grow up and be confident young people and tap into whatever it is that they want to tap into. I think that's the thing we're trying to do now. Is I think we grow up and we're sports people, but we're not trying to drive and push that home within our children. We really want them to just kind of create their own path.
Yeah.
And our son's very artsy, and so we're learning a lot about that and navigating that. But whatever they choose for themselves is going to be amazing, and we're going to support them. So
outstanding. And so that's great. Here at the end of our show, are there any other people that you'd like to give a shout out to? Just people who have had an impact over the course of your life that you'd like to give a shout out to, and different things like that?
I just would like to shout my mom out. I think it takes a great and strong and courageous woman to kind of admit that she didn't always have it together, and that she needed some help.
Mm-hmm.
And this village of people to kind of help mold my siblings and I into the people that we are today. And she just did a phenomenal job raising us. So shout out to my mom.
Excellent. And, it's just been so incredible to have you here today. And I've just been motivated. And ladies and gentlemen, as you listen to the Law of Lift, I hope that you're motivated too. You've heard so many different wonderful pieces of information, advice, whether you want to call it that, or just straight up wisdom from Dominique today. I hope this lifts you up and makes sure that you get to where you're going on your journey. And I'm just incredibly proud to call you a friend and, a colleague. And I wish you the absolute best. And $35, you all, could change a child's life. And I think that, we just need to continue doing this great work here in the community. And it's great to have a person like yourself at the helm of the Boys and Girls Club of Lincoln. So thank you so much for your time, ladies and gentlemen. That's the Law of Lift. I hope you take off.